The grand lobby of the Royal Crest Hotel buzzed with activity. Well-dressed guests moved smoothly across the marble floors, their expensive luggage rolling behind them. The staff, dressed in crisp uniforms, greeted them with practiced smiles. Behind the front desk, two employees, a young man with slicked-back hair and a woman with a sharp ponytail, whispered to each other, their eyes fixed on the entrance. A woman walked in, her appearance starkly different from the usual clientele. Her clothes were simple, faded jeans, a plain t-shirt, and a well-worn backpack. Her sneakers were clean but clearly not designer. She looked around, taking in the luxury with calm eyes, then approached the front desk. The young man at the desk barely glanced at her before turning to his colleague. "Another lost tourist," he muttered under his breath, smirking. The woman beside him stifled a laugh. The visitor reached the counter and placed her hands lightly on the polished surface. "Hello," she said warmly. "I'd like to check in." The young man, his name tag read Jason, finally turned to her, his expression indifferent. "Do you have a reservation?" His tone was polite but laced with subtle mockery, as if the idea of her staying here was absurd. She didn't react to his attitude. "No, I don't. But I'd like a room, please." Jason exchanged another look with his coworker, Lisa, who barely hid her amusement. "I'm afraid we're fully booked," he lied smoothly. "You might have better luck at a budget motel down the street." The woman's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes sharpened. "Are you sure? I was told there were vacancies." Lisa leaned forward, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Sweetie, even if we had rooms, our rates start at $500 a night. Maybe somewhere else would be more suitable for you." A few nearby guests had started to notice the exchange. Some looked uncomfortable, while others mirrored the staff's quiet judgment. The woman, however, remained perfectly calm. She reached into her backpack, and for a second, Jason tensed. Was she going to cause a scene? Instead, she pulled out a simple black card and placed it on the counter. "Run this," she said softly. Jason frowned but took the card, his fingers brushing against the sleek surface. There was no bank logo, no name, just a series of embossed numbers. He hesitated, then swiped it through the system. The moment the screen loaded, his face went pale. Lisa, noticing his reaction, leaned in, then her eyes widened. The screen displayed a single line in bold letters. "Owner access granted." Jason's hands trembled. He looked up at the woman, his earlier arrogance gone. "Ma'am, I." She held up a hand, cutting him off. "Call your manager," she said, her voice still quiet but now carrying an undeniable authority. "Now." Lisa rushed to the phone, her earlier smirk replaced with panic. The guests nearby had stopped pretending not to watch, something big was happening. The woman didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The entire lobby had gone silent, waiting. And in that moment, Jason realized, he had just made the biggest mistake of his career. The air in the lobby grew thick with tension. Jason's fingers hovered over the keyboard, his mind racing. The woman in front of him hadn't moved, hadn't raised her voice, yet her presence now felt overwhelming. The black card on the counter seemed to burn a hole through his confidence. Lisa's hands shook as she dialed the manager's extension. She kept her voice low, urgent. "Sir, you need to come to the front desk. Now." A few seconds later, the elevator doors slid open, and the hotel manager, a tall, polished man in a tailored suit, stepped out. His sharp eyes immediately scanned the scene, the nervous staff, the curious guests, and the unassuming woman at the center of it all. "What's the issue here?" he asked, his tone firm but controlled. Jason swallowed hard. "Sir, this guest, she." The woman turned to face the manager. For the first time, a small, knowing smile played on her lips. "Hello, Daniel." The manager, Daniel, froze. His confident demeanor cracked as recognition flashed across his face. His mouth opened, then closed. Finally, he straightened his tie and spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "Ms. Reyes." A murmur spread through the lobby. "Reyes?" As in Elena Reyes, the billionaire owner of the entire Royal Crest chain? The woman who had built an empire from nothing? Jason felt his stomach drop. Lisa's face drained of color. Elena picked up her card and slipped it back into her pocket. "I decided to visit one of my hotels unannounced," she said, her tone light, as if discussing the weather. "Imagine my surprise when your staff assumed I couldn't afford a room." Daniel's jaw tightened. He shot Jason and Lisa a look that could melt steel. Then, turning back to Elena, he dipped his head slightly. "Ms. Reyes, I don't know what to say. This is unacceptable. I assure you, disciplinary action will be taken immediately." Elena held up a hand. "Before you fire anyone, I'd like to know why this happened." She glanced at Jason and Lisa. "What made you two decide I didn't belong here?" The question hung in the air. Jason's throat felt like sandpaper. Lisa, usually quick with words, stared at the floor. Finally, Jason forced himself to speak. I judged you by your clothes. I thought you were just some random person off the street." His voice cracked. "I'm so sorry." Elena studied him for a long moment. Then, to everyone's shock, she chuckled. "You're not wrong. I am just some random person." She shrugged. "But so is everyone else who walks through those doors. The difference? I own the building." The guests nearby stifled laughs. The tension eased, just slightly. Daniel cleared his throat. "Ms. Reyes, let me personally escort you to the penthouse suite. And as for these two—" "Keep them employed," Elena interrupted. Daniel blinked. "Excuse me?" "I said keep them employed," she repeated. "But reassign them. Housekeeping. Kitchen duty. Whatever. Let them learn what this hotel really runs on." Jason's face burned with shame. Lisa looked like she wanted to disappear. Elena leaned slightly toward them, her voice dropping so only they could hear. "Here's a lesson: never assume you know someone's story. The richest people I know dress like they've got nothing to prove. The poorest? Sometimes they save for months just to stay one night in a place like this. They deserve your respect just as much as anyone else." With that, she turned back to Daniel. "Now, about that penthouse. I would like to freshen up." Daniel snapped into action, gesturing toward the elevator. "Of course, Ms. Reyes. Right this way." As Elena walked away, the lobby erupted in hushed whispers. Guests exchanged glances, some amused, others thoughtful. A few even looked embarrassed, realizing they, too, had judged her at first glance. Jason and Lisa stood rooted in place, the weight of their mistake settling over them. But the story wasn't over yet. Because Elena Reyes didn't just own the hotel. She had a plan for it, and for them. The elevator doors closed behind Elena and Daniel, leaving the lobby in stunned silence. Jason wiped his sweaty palms on his pants, his mind spinning. Housekeeping? Kitchen duty? He'd worked for years to get his front desk position, now it was gone in an instant because of one stupid mistake. Lisa let out a shaky breath. "We're so fired," she muttered. Nearby, a middle-aged guest in a designer suit shook his head. "Serves you right," he said loudly. "Treating people like that." A few others nodded in agreement. Jason wanted to argue, to explain that he wasn't usually like this, but the words died in his throat. Because the truth was, he had judged her. And not just today. He'd done it before to other guests who didn't fit the luxury look. He just never got caught. Up in the penthouse, Daniel fumbled with the keycard, his usual confidence gone. Again, Ms. Reyes, I can't apologize enough for what happened downstairs. This isn't the standard we. Elena waved him off. Relax, Daniel. Sit. She kicked off her sneakers and sank into the plush sofa, looking completely at home. Daniel perched stiffly on the edge of an armchair. I'll have HR process their termination immediately. I already told you, no firings. Elena opened the minibar and pulled out a bottled water. But I do want every employee in this hotel retrained. Starting with those two. Daniel blinked. Retrained? Emotive, she took a slow sip. Tell me, how often do you work the front desk? Well, never. I'm management. Exactly. Elena set the bottle down with a quiet clink. You've forgotten what this job feels like. So here's what's going to happen. For the next month, you're taking Jason's shift. Lisa too. And they'll shadow you. Daniel's face paled. You want me to? Check in guests. Carry bags. Smile until your face hurts. Elena's eyes glinted. And while you're at it, pay attention to who gets treated well, and who doesn't. Back downstairs, Jason was clearing out his locker when his phone buzzed. A group text from Daniel. All staff meeting. 10 a.m. tomorrow. Mandatory. Lisa groaned. Probably to publicly fire us. But the next morning, the entire staff gasped when Daniel walked in, wearing a front desk uniform. Effective immediately, he announced, voice tight, I'll be handling Jason's duties. He and Lisa will assist me. Murmurs erupted. Additionally, Ms. Reyes has ordered a full review of our guest service protocols. A hand shot up. So, no one's getting fired? Daniel's jaw worked. No. But things are changing. His eyes locked onto Jason's. Starting with how we treat every guest. As the meeting ended, Jason noticed something odd. Near the back, dressed in a housekeeping uniform, stood Elena Reyes, scribbling notes. She caught him staring and winked. The next few days at the Royal Crest Hotel were unlike anything the staff had ever experienced. Daniel, usually seen barking orders from his office, now stood stiffly behind the front desk, forcing smiles at guests while Jason and Lisa hovered awkwardly beside him. Meanwhile, Elena, dressed in a plain housekeeping uniform under the name Maria, blended seamlessly with the staff. She scrubbed toilets, changed bedsheets, and most importantly, listened. Day 1, the janitor's lesson. Elena was mopping the lobby floor when a wealthy guest in a fur coat stepped right into her path, tracking mud across the freshly cleaned tiles. Ugh, finally, the woman snapped without looking at her. These floors are disgusting. My shoes are ruined. Elena paused, grip tightening on the mop. I'll clean it right away, ma'am. The woman finally glanced down, then wrinkled her nose at Elena's worn sneakers. People like you shouldn't even be allowed in places like this. From across the lobby, Jason watched in horror. He recognized that tone, it was the same one he'd used days ago. Before he could intervene, the guest stormed off toward the elevators. Elena caught his eye and gave a tiny shake of her head. Watch and learn. Day 3, the broken plate incident. Lisa, reassigned to banquet service, was carrying a tray of champagne flutes when a man bumped into her. Glass shattered across the marble floor. Clumsy idiot, the man barked, brushing imaginary lint off his suit. These glasses cost more than your paycheck. Lisa's face burned as she knelt to clean up. Then another pair of hands appeared, Elena's. Let me help, she murmured. She handed Lisa a shard of glass. Funny thing? His company owes this hotel $84,000 in unpaid event fees. Lisa's head jerked up. Wait, what? Elena just smiled. Day 5, Daniel's humiliation. Daniel, sweating through his third straight shift, faced his worst nightmare: a line of 20 check-ins, a screaming couple whose reservation was lost, and a broken computer system. Unacceptable, the man shouted, slamming his palm on the counter. I demand to speak to the manager. Daniel's eye twitched. Sir, I am the manager? You? The man scoffed. Pathetic. I'll have your job for this. From housekeeping service closet, Elena peeked out, biting her lip to hide a grin. Day 7, the revelation. At midnight, Elena gathered Jason, Lisa, and Daniel in the empty staff lounge. All three looked exhausted. Well? She tossed a notebook on the table. What did you learn? Jason spoke first. That guests treat us like furniture. Lisa added quietly, and the richer they are, the meaner they get. Daniel rubbed his aching feet. I had no idea how hard frontline work was. Elena nodded. Good. Now flip open the notebook. Inside were dozens of names, every rude guest, every entitled VIP from the past week. Next to each, handwritten notes. Kicked housekeeper. Banned from rooftop bar access. Yelled at valet. Charged for damages to room 1202. Stiffed wait staff. Automatic 20% gratuity added to all future bills. Jason's mouth fell open. You've been keeping score? Elena's smile turned razor sharp. Oh, this isn't just about manners. It's business. She tapped the list. These people cost me money, in staff turnover, in broken items, in bad reviews from other guests who witnessed their behavior. She leaned forward. Starting tomorrow, we're implementing a new policy, the rudeness tax. Daniel blinked. The what? Charge them for being awful, Elena said simply. Literally. Add fees to their bills every time they abuse staff. Put the money toward employee bonuses. Lisa gasped. Jason's shocked laugh echoed in the quiet room. Elena stood, stretching. Oh, and one more thing, she pulled off her housekeeping cap, revealing the security badge underneath. None of you recognized me as the owner this week. Which means... Her gaze swept over them. None of them will either. A slow grin spread across Jason's face. The game had just changed. The Royal Crest Hotel staff meeting the next morning was electric with nervous energy. Daniel stood at the front, crisp suit restored but posture less rigid than before. To his left, Jason and Lisa clutched copies of Elena's infamous rudeness list. Effective immediately, Daniel announced, we're instituting a new guest accountability system. He clicked a remote, and the screen behind him displayed a sleek slide. Royal Crest Hospitality Policy. Courtesy is included. Disrespect will be billed. A stunned silence followed. Then, from the back, a housekeeper whispered, hell yes. First test, the champagne tyrant. Mrs. Whitmore, a regular who famously threw her iced tea at a waiter last summer, marched into the lobby at noon. My usual suite better be ready, she snapped at Jason. He typed slowly, fighting a smile. Ah, yes, Mrs. Whitmore. We've upgraded you to a better room, with a courtesy note about our updated policies. He slid over a glossy pamphlet. She barely glanced at it. Whatever. Just send up. Your usual Dom Perignon. Jason interrupted. Of course. There is a small change, though. He tapped the screen. Our personalized service fee now applies to chilled beverages. That'll be an extra $50 per bottle. Mrs. Whitmore's face purpled. Excuse me? Jason didn't flinch. Page 3 of your welcome packet, ma'am. Under guest staff interaction guidelines. Across the lobby, Elena, disguised as a concierge, watched as Mrs. Whitmore stormed off, champagne-less. Second test, the parking lot bully. Mr. Langley, of the $84,000 debt, screeched his Porsche up to the valet stand. "Wash it twice," he ordered, tossing his keys at a teenager named Miguel. "Last time you idiots left water spots." Miguel caught the keys, heart pounding. Then he noticed Lisa watching from the door, and the tiny nod she gave him. "Absolutely, sir." Miguel beamed. "Just so you know, our vehicle care enhancement package is now mandatory for luxury models. Only $75. Langley froze. "Since when?" "Since today." Miguel chirped, pointing to a new sign by the portico. Elena, now wearing valet stripes, muffled a laugh into a clipboard. "The backlash begins." By evening, the front desk phone rang non-stop. "You charged me $200 for tone adjustment," one man yelled. Daniel, back in his managerial role, replied smoothly, "Yes, sir. Our system logs every time you called staff incompetent this week. That's $50 per instance." He paused. "Shall I email you the audio clips?" The line went dead. Elena's masterstroke. At midnight, the staff gathered in the now traditional lounge meeting. Elena dropped a printout on the table, today's revenue report. Lisa gasped. $12,000 in rudeness taxes? And Langley finally paid his overdue balance, Daniel added, stunned. But Elena was staring at Jason. "You hesitated with Mrs. Whitmore this morning." Jason stiffened. "I almost chickened out." Elena nodded. "That's why tomorrow's lesson is harder." She flipped open a laptop, revealing security footage of a scowling older couple. "Meet the Harpers. They've gotten every server fired for slow service, because they deliberately hide their wedding rings in food to complain." The room erupted in outrage. Elena silenced them with a raised hand. "They check in tomorrow. Here's what we'll do." As she outlined the plan, Jason realized the deeper game. This wasn't just about fines. It was about justice. The next morning, the entire hotel staff moved with quiet purpose. Housekeepers adjusted their gloves. Servers practiced neutral smiles. Even the bellhop stood straighter. The Harpers had arrived. "Check in, the trap is set." Mr. and Mrs. Harper, a silver-haired couple in designer vacation wear, swept into the lobby like royalty inspecting a peasant village. Mrs. Harper's diamond bracelet caught the light as she slapped her palm on the front desk. "We had better not experience the abysmal service we did last time," she announced, as if declaring war. Jason, prepared, gave a polite nod. "Welcome back, Mr. and Mrs. Harper. We've taken your feedback to heart." He slid 2 keycards across the marble. "In fact, we've upgraded you to our exclusive VIP experience." Mr. Harper's eyes narrowed. "What's the catch?" "No catch," Jason said smoothly. "Just enhanced attention to detail." Behind a potted palm, Elena adjusted her fake glasses, part of her latest disguise as the hotel's new guest relations specialist, and watched the wolves step into the pen. Phase 1, the Phantom Ring. At dinner, the Harpers ordered the most expensive wine, sent back 2 appetizers for being too salty, and, right on schedule, Mrs. Harper gasped dramatically. "There's a ring in my risotto." She held up a gold band between her thumb and forefinger, face twisted in disgust. "Disgraceful. We could have choked." The restaurant fell silent. Their server, a college student named Amir, didn't flinch. "Oh dear," he said gravely. "Let me call security immediately." Mrs. Harper blinked. "Security?" Amir pulled out a walkie-talkie. "Of course. This is clearly a stolen item. We'll need to fingerprint the ring and file a police report for the theft." Mr. Harper lunged for the ring. "That won't be." "No touching the evidence," boomed a voice. All heads turned to Daniel, marching over in full security chief mode, a role he'd eagerly volunteered for. He whipped out a plastic evidence bag. "Ma'am, drop the ring here. We'll also need sworn statements from everyone at nearby tables." Mrs. Harper's face went sheet white. The stolen ring was hers, a fact the security cameras had already captured when she'd slipped it into her food 10 minutes prior. "Wait," she stammered. I think it's actually my ring. It must have fallen in." Daniel paused. "Fallen in? From where?" Her husband cut in, sweating. "Her finger. It was loose." Amir tilted his head. "But ma'am, you were wearing gloves when you arrived." He turned to a busboy. "Fetch the lobby footage, would you?" The Harpers exchanged panicked looks. Phase 2, the billing. An hour later, back in their suite, the Harpers tore open an envelope left on their pillow, not the usual chocolates, but an itemized bill. Food tampering fine, $500. False complaint surcharge, $300. Staff trauma compensation, $200. Attached was a screenshot from the kitchen camera, Mrs. Harper, clear as day, dropping the ring into her dish. The phone rang. Mr. Harper grabbed it. "What is this extortion?" Elena's voice, sweet as poisoned honey, came through. "Oh good, you got our guest integrity package invoice. We also noticed you've done this at 6 other hotels. How entrepreneurial of you." A pause. "Pay the bill, or we email this video to all of them. Your choice." The line went dead. The ripple effect. By checkout time, the Harpers paid in full, in cash, and scurried out without their usual dramatics. But the real victory came at the staff meeting that night. Amir, still buzzing from his acting debut, high-fived Lisa. "Did you see her face when I mentioned fingerprints?" Daniel, grinning, projected the hotel's latest reviews onto the wall. For new 5-star ratings and a 20% drop in complaint emails. Then Elena dropped the bomb. "Next week," she said, "we're rolling this policy out chain-wide." She tossed custom rudeness tax handbooks onto the table. "You're the pilot team. Train others." Jason, flipping through the handbook, froze at a highlighted line. "Offending guests may be banned from all properties, including weddings and events." He looked up. "You're giving us that power?" Elena's smile was razor-sharp. "No. You already had the power. I'm just giving you permission to use it." For the first time in years, Jason stood up straight. The hunted had become the hunters. The staff celebrations had barely died down when Elena called an emergency midnight meeting. But this time, the atmosphere wasn't triumphant, it was tense. She stood before them in a sharp business suit, her playful disguises gone. On the table lay a stack of financial reports stamped confidential. "We have a problem," she said, flipping open a file. "This hotel isn't just struggling with rude guests. It's bleeding money, intentionally. The unseen enemy." Elena projected a spreadsheet onto the wall. Red arrows pointed to shocking numbers. $250,000 missing from maintenance budgets. 12 fake vendor invoices. 5 underbooked luxury suites, paid for in cash, never logged. Daniel's coffee cup hit the table with a clatter. Someone's stealing? Not just someone. Elena clicked to a security still, a sleek-haired man in a navy suit shaking hands with a known casino owner. Him. Jason squinted. "Wait, that's the regional director. Mr. Cole." "Exactly." Elena's voice turned icy. "For 2 years, he's been siphoning money to cover his gambling debts. And he picked this hotel because..." She paused, eyes locking onto Daniel. "He thought weak management would let him get away with it. Daniel flinched as if struck. The sting operation. Elena outlined her plan. Bait, let Cole think his thefts are still hidden. Trap, feed him false financial reports showing a fake $500,000 surplus. Capture, wait for him to steal it, then catch him red-handed. Lisa raised a shaky hand. Why involve us? Couldn't corporate handle this? Because you see everything. Elena tapped the rudeness tax logs. Housekeepers notice which rooms get extra service. Servers overhear private meetings. Valets see who meets Cole late at night. She leaned in. You're not just staff. You're intel. Jason's mind raced. That explained why Elena had tested them. She needed a team sharp enough to pull this off. Day 1, the bait is set. Daniel, back in his manager role, handed Cole the doctored report in a private meeting. Sir, our new policies accidentally tripled profits. Cole's eyes gleamed as he scanned the fake numbers. Excellent work. His gold pen hovered over a transfer request. I'll relocate these funds for safekeeping. From the hallway, Elena, disguised as a janitor, watched through a vent. Day 3, the ghost guests. Per Elena's orders, Jason booked the penthouse under a fake name, then let staff accidentally see Cole's secret ledger left open. Look! Lisa whispered loudly to a housekeeper. The penthouse is paid in cash, but it's empty. Where's the money going? The rumor spread like wildfire, exactly as planned. Day 5, the trap springs. At 3 a.m., Cole crept into the accounting office to authorize the $500,000 transfer. The lights blazed on. Elena stood in the doorway, flanked by corporate auditors. On the desk, Cole's own laptop played footage of him shredding real invoices, captured by a hidden camera in a potted plant tended by none other than Amir, the clumsy server. Cole lunged for the computer. And slammed straight into Daniel, who'd been hiding in the closet. Going somewhere, sir? The aftermath. By dawn, Cole was in handcuffs. By noon, every employee knew. But at the final staff meeting, Elena dropped the biggest bombshell yet. Effective immediately, she said, this location's profits will be split 25% with you, as a thank you for catching a thief. The room erupted. Jason, heart-pounding, whispered, why are you really doing all this? Elena met his gaze. Because I built this empire cleaning rich people's toilets. Never forgot it. She nodded at the cheering staff. And neither should they. But as the celebration began, Elena slipped out, heading for the airport. Her work here was done. The staff of the Royal Crest Hotel celebrated long into the night, bonuses secured, a corrupt executive exposed, and a new sense of pride buzzing through the halls. But as dawn broke, one question lingered in the air like the scent of fresh coffee in the lobby. Why did Elena Reyes, billionaire owner, personally come here to fix this one hotel? The answer arrived in an unmarked envelope. The letter. Jason found it taped to his new manager's office door. His promotion had been finalized that morning. Inside, a single key and a handwritten note. Meet me at room 217. Room 217 was the smallest, plainest guest room in the hotel. No view. No minibar. Just a bed, a desk, and a single faded photograph taped to the wall, a black and white image of a young woman in a maid's uniform, standing in that exact room. Elena stood by the window, her usual confidence softened by something unfamiliar, nostalgia. You recognize her? She asked, nodding to the photo. Jason squinted. The woman's eyes. Is that you? 23 years ago. Elena ran a finger over the chipped desk. This was my first job in America. Changed sheets for $4.25 an hour. A beat of silence. Then. That's why you came back, Jason breathed. The truth unfolds. Elena sat on the edge of the bed, no throne, no power suit, just a woman revisiting her past. "I bought this chain 5 years ago," she said. "Never stepped foot in this location until now. Too many memories." She pointed to a faint scratch on the wall. "Made that dragging a guest's suitcase. Got fined a day's wages." Jason sat beside her. "But why the disguise? Why not just tell us who you were? Would you have believed me?" Elena smirked. "A billionaire scrubbing toilets? Fair point." She grew serious. "I needed to see if this place was worth saving. If the people here had the same fight I did." A pause. "You did. The final lesson." Elena handed Jason the key, not just to room 217, but to the entire hotel. "I'm transferring ownership," she said. "To you. To all of you." Jason's hands shook. "What? Employee-owned. Equal shares. You've earned it." She stood, straightening her jacket. "Just one condition." "Anything." Elena tapped the old photo. "Keep her here. So no one ever forgets where real value comes from." Epilogue, 1 year later. The new Royal Crest Hotel thrived under its unusual new ownership. Lisa became head of guest relations, her rudeness tax policy now an industry standard. Daniel, humbled, created a program where executives work frontline shifts. Jason, glancing at room 217's photo during tough decisions, led the hotel to its first ever #1 ranking. As for Elena, she was spotted last month at a struggling diner in Chicago, wearing an apron and a new name tag. Because some lessons are best taught from the inside.